Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I felt I had to do a Godcraft 13.5. The date today is 26th of the 11th, 21. So much has gone on since we published our last show, which was the 21st of the 11th, only a short week away. So much has happened, especially if I want to talk about events around the Beaver Blood Moon that I mentioned on the last one. So we've got all these terrible things going on around the world, centered around the moon cycles. That's mainly what I want to get over to people. So we've had where to start actually. So as well as the Remembrance Day bombing, we got the Daily Express there. Remembrance Day bombing. That's a terrorist attack on Remembrance Day, which was just before. That was November the 20th. Only a few days before. I'm not zooming into the paper clippings. You're going to have to take my word for it. Basically, when we get our tech department a little bit more advanced, we'll have everything up. So November the 20th, 2021, this is the Daily Express. So, expat guilty of stabbing wife to death. I know it's only, what I'm focusing on is when they appear to the public. I know that the events might have been a little bit different. The wealthy expat faces 25 years in jail after being convicted of his wife's torturous murder in Spain. So that's a stabbing. However, I will focus on the very nice picture of Camilla and a horse there. You see that? For some reason. On the 24th of November, 45 killed in bus horror, dozens of children among fireball dead, this is Bulgaria, I believe. 6 adults yeah, this is they believe, I think it was a suicide, so this is murder, psychopath, bus driver, they think, but 45 were killed, 7 got out of the windows apparently, so there you have blood, fire and smoke in the one incident again, that was the 24th of November 21. There's another disaster. Another disaster in the paper. That was a Christmas, basically anti-vaccine protests have broken out all over Europe, again around the full moon, around the Beaver Blood Moon, it's protests, and some of them got violent all around Europe. That's that one. Terrible story of 18-year-old young girl abducted in Plymouth. Again, funnily enough, where we come from, where we're broadcasting from. Her body's been found. And she was abducted a few days earlier. The date on that newspaper's report was that's today's paper. That's Friday, November the 26th. So that happened a couple of days ago, which would have put it in or just around the full moon. Um, did want to talk about the La Palma volcano that's been going off for, well, it's a record 2 months, I believe. That it's nearly the longest. I think it's the longest ever eruption. It's nearly the longest eruption in our consciousness. You'll have to check that out for yourself. But the main point about it is it's been going about 2 months, and it started, according to my records, around the it was another Jewish feast, funnily enough, and it was called the Feast of Shelters, it's called, which is a week-long celebration for the Jewish community. Funnily enough, right in the middle of that celebration, there was a meteor strike on Jupiter. That was on, and I think one just went past. I think that was one that I talked about earlier that went past us that they didn't spot, but told us 2 days later. I think that was NASA. That was one of those. So it was a close pass, and that was on around the Jewish holiday as well. I'll cover that more in depth later. So again, I want to cover a little bit more of the Antichrist. I spoke about him. Well, he's going to show up with it. You know, it'll be showing up fairly soon, according to the Revelation side of things. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and that would be great for everyone. But if I'm not, keep tuning in. So we're looking for him. Apparently, he'll have a superhuman or supernatural power. He'll be behind he'll be behind a politician, by the sounds of it. He won't be coming alone. I mentioned last time about the spirit of the Antichrist already being here, and that kind of that pans out. You can see it. You can see it everywhere. You can see it on the internet a lot, but you see it in real life. Just the way some people are, often. You know, you're talking about narcissism, everything like this it seems to be on the rise, or at least the awareness of it is huge. So it's kind of a kind of being exposed by the internet, if you like. So what I mean by that is, so if you're in an abusive relationship at the moment, or like a nasty piece of work, if you just go on the internet, type in the character traits, and they're all there for you to see. You know, that's like, so that is an expose of the nastier side of humanity. I'll cover demons and things like that again in a later episode. But very briefly, I believe that, and the Bible believes, that people can be possessed and inhabited by these things, and they don't necessarily know it. So you have the spirit of, an easy one is alcoholism. That's not demonic necessarily, but you can see some of the ways people act while they're under that influence and they're not themselves. So I believe that's when you open the doorways to these kind of influences. Drugs as well. Drugs inhabit that territory, though not all people that are on drugs are. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm starting to see more signs of that being the case, and these are increasing. These will increase. It says in the Bible, these signs will increase. To put it bluntly, things are getting worse. It says, yeah, it does say things are going to get worse before they get better, and that's why I did this one, because I'd finished Godcraft 13, and all that stuff happened just after I talked about it, so I had to get 13.5 or I'd get behind myself again. Yeah, NASA's in on the meteor thing. Again, this is a news report on the 22nd of November this year, so on or just after the Beaver blood moon, and something we talk about. So NASA's now talking about going to an asteroid. The news report was they're going to design a craft to go up there and steer an asteroid, a dangerous asteroid, off course. That could be taken two ways. That could be code for they know there's something out there and they're trying to do something about it. I don't think we're that advanced that we can do anything about something huge coming our way, personally. But there you go. The fact is, it was on the news on the 22nd, and we published the last one on the 21st. So make your own mind up about that. What else have we got? Forgive me for reading off my cues. I will get better. Yeah, the Antichrist again. Apparently, he'll come like a sheep, but he's a wolf. That's what it says in the book about him. And just before we finish, then we've got a couple of things I missed, as usual. So, a whole church. People talk about the end of the church age. It's like a thing in people that are religious and go to churches and stuff. So we had the big cathedral burning down a couple of years ago in France, Notre Dame, yeah, that one, which is, in my opinion, one of the signs. And what that means is, for people that don't go to church, that possibly means God's had enough of the people that run the buildings and he's out of the church. And that's a big thing to say, I know, but there's a certain amount of people in the religious community that believe that is upon us. So the end of the church age, and to bolt that on with something that happened to do with the La Palma volcano. I think it was one of the disasters that happened in Spain anyway. And it was on the news, it was on the UK news. A whole church just disappeared underground. And probably an earthquake. So it's not the volcano. That was one of the earthquakes we had in Spain. But that was this year. So again, I think that's to do with the end of the church age. Or am I reading too much into it? Answers on a postcard, please. I'll go through my mailbag next time. What else have we got to finish off then? Yeah, and 17th, well, there's a nurse, I don't know her name. A couple of weeks ago, a young nurse was stabbed to death by a lone nutter, just randomly. Doesn't seem to be a provocation or any reason. So these things are on the up. What I talk about, not a nice thing to go on about, but I'm trying to say that there are patterns here and that we should pay attention. And that's about it for Godcraft 13 and a half. Thank you for tuning in.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? And it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift. The baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to a kitchen chair, she broke your throat and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Baby, I've been here before. I've seen this room and I've walked this floor. You know, I used to live alone before I knew you. And I've seen you